Hello and welcome to the Night Feed. I'm your host, Charlotte, here to keep you company during, let's face it, one of the toughest parts of being a new parent, the Night Feed. Tonight's unpaid sponsor is being bitten on the nipple by a teething baby. Wow. My boy has just got his front two teeth through. As my dad likes to refer to it, his central eating. But he bit down on my nipple the other night with the greatest force, and he kind of like pulled it back and swung his head. You know, like when a dog picks up a bone and like swings the head around. I was like, and I remembered in that moment not to react because somebody once told me when she was feeding her son, he bit her nipple and she like yelped in pain and he found it hilarious. And she said it became a habit because he knew he got a reaction. So she said, my one piece of advice to you is when your teething baby bites your nipple, don't react. So there's my little PSA for you all. If you're breastfeeding a teething baby, don't react when they bite. It will take every morsel of your being not to react, but try your best not to. Guys, I went on a trip to the theatre with all three of the babies. Well, the baby and the small children, the other day. And it was an interesting day. It was Sunday evening and it's half term here in the UK. We've still got a week off for Easter. I thought, I'm not staying in tomorrow. It's raining. Well, it's meant to be raining. I want to get out. I want to go somewhere that's fun. So there I was, 8 p.m. Sunday night, just having a little Google what's on near me. Saw that The Wizard of Oz was on in Bolton on the Monday. And the tickets were like super cheap, like £8 a ticket. I thought, how bad could it be? A little trip to the theatre, the three of us, and me. And I'm just going to go for it. Jason was in the office all day, so I thought, let's just go for it. Let's just get out. Book the tickets. Now, my girls, 3 and 5, for any new listeners, have only ever seen the abridged version of The Wizard of Oz. And by the abridged version of The Wizard of Oz, I mean the bit where I skip all the witch bits. So it's my all-time favourite kids' film. I absolutely adored that film growing up. But the witch did terrify me. I think that actress's portrayal of a wicked witch has to be the best in history. I mean, bejesus, she was scary as a kid, wasn't she? And I've kind of shielded them from that. And I know there's only a matter of time before they're going to watch that film all the way through one Christmas Day and see that witch, and it will scare them, but they haven't so far. So anyway, I booked it. I thought it's a pantomime, it's for young kids. How bad can it be? It'll be some bloke dressed up as the witch. It'll be funny. It's all good. So I booked the tickets. The next morning, woke the kids. No, I didn't wake the kids up. The kids woke me up. Let's get that right. Kids woke up. I said, we're doing something really fun today. We're going on an adventure. We're going to go and watch The Wizard of Oz in the theatre. First thing my 5-year-old said, what about the witch? I was like, well, it'll probably just be a man like Daddy dressed up as a lady, and it'll be really funny, and you'll have to say, she's behind you. We'll all have a laugh. A bit like Mr. Tumble. So I said. She was like, oh, okay. But then she's very emotionally aware, my 5-year-old. I love that about her. She knows how her feelings are. And she said, but what if I'm scared? I said, well, if you're really scared and you don't like it, we'll leave. And I made that promise to her. I thought, I'm not going to terrorise my 5-year-old, on a Monday in a school holiday. So we'll go along, we'll see what it's like. So we drive to Bolton. It's about 20 minutes from where we are. Park up in an NCP, £3 for the day. I couldn't believe it. It's £3 a minute in Manchester. It's like, this is brilliant. Parked up and we had time to spare. I was like, you're doing great. I was giving myself pep talks, baby in the sling, girl in each hand. We were walking through Bolton, went and got some treats and snacks from Boots, and we went into the theatre. All going well. Lovely big display on the stage of The Wizard of Oz, big rainbow, all the lights. It was really fun. And to be honest, the kids were young in there. There was another baby sat near us. And I purposely booked aisle seat tickets because I thought I don't want to be that person that's like constantly making people move and get up. So I thought if I need to get out for the baby for any reason, I can just get up. It's all good. Right at the back we were. So the performance starts, and Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, comes on in a beautiful pink sparkly dress, singing. I thought, oh, wonderful, magical. The kids were, at this point, sat up, loving it. The baby, he was on my knee, holding the chair in front, sat mesmerised by it. I was like, well, this is a turn out for the books. I thought he was going to be the one that was a bit, cranky. He was loving it. But then on comes Miss Gulch, who's the witch, isn't she? Pre-Oz. A bloke dressed up in like a Cruella de Vil kind of get up. And he was quite scary, to be honest. He was doing a real like heckly cackly voice and saying how he's the bad one and he's going to get Dorothy and blah, blah, blah. And straight away my 5-year-old looked at me like, I don't like that. I don't like the witch. I was like, oh, it's okay. I said, it's just a man. It's just like a man like Daddy. It's nothing to be scared of. And she was like, no, don't like that. I was like, well, let's give it a little bit longer and we'll see. And no, she wasn't happy. So we went out into the corridor, and I was kind of giving a little pep talk, like, don't worry, it's just a funny show. He'll, the witch will be making us laugh in a minute. It's not anything. And she was adamant. And I said, right, well, if you don't like it, we'll go. We will leave. So we went back in, and Dorothy was singing Over the Rainbow at this point, and wow, what a voice. If you live in, I think it's on this week. So if you're local to Bolton, I'm recording this on the Wednesday. I think it's on all week. It's like £8 a ticket. If you've got little ones that aren't bothered by witches, I will give you that pre-warning. The Dorothy singing, oh my gosh, she was amazing. So we watched Over the Rainbow and we got our coats and we left. And you know how some days things happen for a reason? Sometimes you think things fall into place for a reason. We crossed the road from the theatre and we went into the shopping centre, which is called The Light. And there on the left was this lovely little sensory cafe, a play cafe. Completely empty because all the kids were in the show, watching the show. And there was just one guy serving coffee. Went in, £3.50 for the children. I think the baby was free. And there was something for all of them. There was a trampoline for the girls. There was a play area for the baby with all like sensory toys. And it was just ideal for the three of them. I could see them at all times when they were running from either side of the cafe. It was ideal. We were in there for 2 hours. I had myself a coffee. And when as a mom, you're like, this is going great. Sometimes you have moments where you're like, I'm about to fall apart here. But sometimes it's like, take this moment in, So if you live in the Northwest, I mean, it's only quite a small cafe and they have up to 10 kids at a time. It's in the Light in Bolton. I would recommend it. I would take them back there. And the sweetest thing, when we were in this cafe, my 5-year-old came up to me and she gave me a big hug and she said, thank you for coming here instead of staying there. I really didn't like the witch. And I was just like, oh God. And it just melted me. And it was just one of those moments where you're like, that really did fall into place. We weren't meant to stay there. It was, one thing I will say is it was very loud, the performance, to the point where I kind of wish I'd took ear defenders for the baby. Not that I have ear defenders for the baby, but I was like, I would have needed ear defenders for the baby if I'd have stayed, because it was like 2 hours long. And yeah, we made the right call. It worked out. We had a lovely time in this play cafe. And then I saw that there was a bakery around the corner. I don't know Bolton very well, but we went to this bakery called Carr's Bakery, which if you're local to Northwest, you'll know it's an elevated Greggs, let's say. The sausage rolls taste more homemade than Greggs. So we had some lovely sausage rolls, some gingerbread, and within like a minute of sitting at this lovely table in the sun, I was like, what is this? Like Costa del Bolton. It was lovely. The rain went, the sun came down on us. I was like, the baby started to nap on me in the sling. I was like, this is great. my kids started feeding the pigeons. And I was literally like the bird woman in Home Alone. You know, she just stands there with them all on it. They were flocking. I was like, can we feed the pigeons when we've eaten? Like, save a few crumbs and feed the pigeons just before we leave, because they're everywhere. My 3-year-old just looked at me and was like, oh, Mom, but they're hungry. I was like, what in the humanitarianness is this? She was just looking at me like I was evil because I didn't want to feed the pigeons. But anyway, we were Home Alone bird women for about half an hour. And then we left. And it was just one of those days where you go with a plan, things change as they always do when you're a parent, and it worked out well. So yeah, if you're local to Bolton, I would highly recommend the Sensory Cafe in the Light shopping centre. Really nice time. I saw a post the other day from a student midwife who said, if you want to know what the euphoric recipe is for that tea and toast when you first have your baby, she said in the hospital where she works, it's Kingsmill bread, either the white or the 50-50, with salted anchor butter. So if you want to recreate that euphoric tea and toast, try Kingsmill and salted anchor butter. There you go. I'm going to be trying it because I knew it wasn't Warburton's. I knew it didn't taste like Warburton's bread. Not that I'm a bread connoisseur, but apparently it's Kingsmill and anchor butter. So there you go. I thought I'd just pass that on. I've been emailing a listener called Vicky this week, and she wrote in about a week ago. We've been having a little back and forth actually, and she mentioned about maternal self-image and how maybe that's a good topic for the podcast, because she was saying how she kept up with exercise throughout pregnancy, obviously within the limits, and she didn't put very much weight on, but she said she seems to be hanging on to a fair amount now. She said her body's changed shape and breastfeeding leaves her ravenous, which doesn't it all? I mean, my sugar intake at the moment is off the charts. Honestly, oh my Lord, I really need to curb that. It is bad. If I see sugar, I eat it at the moment. And so I know I know how this person is feeling. She said, I don't feel great in myself. Clothes don't fit well and time is limited to quick showers. Surely I can't be the only one feeling quite negative about my body. I say this as someone who has never really cared very much about my shape or look, as long as I feel strong and fit, which absolutely is a topic that I think most of us new mums think about at some point. We live in a culture, especially with social media, where there is this very much bounce back kind of culture, I suppose. We see a lot of influencers having babies, and within 6 weeks they're in their tight little black dress out again, and it does take you aback sometimes, I think, when you think, did she just have a baby? So maternal self-image, even if you are very much in the mindset of, I'm not bothered about necessarily snapping right back, I'm more bothered about how I feel, it is something that's going to be on your mind. And what I thought, rather than having like a deep dive into this conversation, is I thought I'd come up with like a few practical tips that have helped me personally that maybe would help you. Now, for me, I am, like I've said, I'm 36 now, and what hit me the other day was when I pulled my neck out from sleeping on the wrong pillow, and I thought, I've really got to look after myself. I think when you're mid-30s, you start to feel your body a bit more. And there's slight aches and pains that I didn't have when I turned 30 that I do now. And I am very conscious at the moment that I need to start moving my body, just in terms of building up my strength again, doing yoga, walking. I'm not talking about like doing HIIT classes every day. I'm talking about making my body feel good again. So I thought I'd just share a few tips that maybe would help you if you are feeling low right now, if you're feeling like you've got no motivation to move, or if you feel like you wear the same old leggings every day. Those are just a few tips that might help. So First one is wear clothes that fit now. So I think it's really easy for new mums to think, well, I've put some extra pounds on, I'm not going to buy nice clothes, I'm going to wait till I fit in the jeans that I fit in pre-baby. My advice would be to wear what fits you now. And it's important to feel good, I think. Even if that means investing in clothes a size up from what you would usually wear, is just to feel good, feel happy in what you're wearing and look good. And I think I know when I put on some nice jeans and a nice top, maybe some earrings, and I do my hair, I hold myself differently. I'll go out and I'll just feel better for it rather than just putting my scruffy leggings on and my gym top. I just feel more put together. And I think it elevates you both in how you look and how you feel. So, just having a couple of outfits that really fit your current body and that you feel really good in right now, because why put it off? Why put off getting the jeans because you're going to go on some crazy diet in a few months and you'll feel better? That might never happen. And you might go through the next year feeling a bit rubbish in the clothes that you've got because your other ones don't fit pre-baby. And I think it's important to feel good now. Number 2 is to upgrade your around the house clothes. And I know this sounds silly, but I just got, coming back to leggings, a couple of nice, well-fitted pairs of leggings that I feel good in, and nice kind of athleisure tops. So I'm not just putting on like scruffy baggy bottoms and a scruffy baggy top. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you're in the early days and weeks of having a baby, by all means, pajamas are great. Like, I was in pajamas a lot of the time in the early days, and there's no harm in that. I'm talking about, a few months further on. It's just to kind of feel a bit elevated when you're in and around the house. We're not always going to put our jeans on every day. We're not always going to put on a nice dress every day. But when you do have nice kind of loungewear, athleisure that you feel good in, that you can go to the shops in, I think it makes you feel a bit better. Doing 5-minute reset kind of workouts. So what I mean by this is not thinking you've got to do a 45-minute HIIT class, but just doing 5 minutes, like a stretch here and there, a walk around the block. When I was feeding the baby this evening, I decided to do 10 squats. I thought, he's in his chair, eating his food, and I just did 10 squats next to him. And I'm going to try and do that throughout the day, because scheduling in a workout sounds easy, but it's not, is it? Especially if you've got a baby that wants to contact nap on you. So what I'm trying to do is move while the baby's awake. Set him up with his toys and maybe do a 5-minute little stretch. A few push-ups, a few sit-ups, and a few squats. It doesn't have to be like a big 45-minute long class. So just moving little bits here and there will help. Number 4 is eat your meals sitting down at the table. And I do try and do this every meal time. I am quite strict about this. We'll have, sometimes, don't get me wrong, half term, sometimes breakfast is in the living room. They'll have their berries and a bit of toast, watching the telly sometimes. But I do try to have all our meals around the table. We do eat dinner together. And I think it just makes you consciously eat better. If you're going to have your sit down meal, you eat all together and you have the same kind of meal, rather than like grabbing snacks here and there throughout the day and not eating well enough. I think it fuels you better just having those sit down meals. Number 5, unfollow triggering accounts. You know how I feel about social media. You know how detrimental I feel that is to us as new mums. But if there are accounts that bug you or annoy you or make you feel inferior, unfollow them. Number 6 is shift the goal from appearance to feeling. So instead of I want to look better, I think I want to feel better and more comfortable. Some days I feel really low on energy, and they're the days when I'm like, I need to exercise more. I need to go for that walk, or move more. And to be fair, I am running after, a 3-month, a 5-month, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 10-month-old who is now very active. So naturally, when you are a mum, or if you're on maternity leave, you are up and about more than sitting at a desk. So that does help. But yeah, just kind of focus on how you feel rather than how you look. This one is get outside, even if it's just once a day, even if it's just briefly. Fresh air does so much more for your image and your body image than you give it credit for. I think it grounds you back into your body instead of your thoughts. Just being outside, walking in a park in the fresh air is really helpful. Another one is doing like a tiny body connection during contact naps. So if you have a baby that just wants to be on you a lot of the time, try and like move your neck, move your shoulders if you can, move your ankles, do a kind of like little foot kind of movement. So you're giving your body a little bit of a stretch out without moving too much. And again, that kind of grounds you and helps your body like feel less tense, I suppose. This one is, I think, important. And this is speak to yourself like you would to another mum. So some of the thoughts we feel about ourselves, we would never project onto another mum. Like I never look at another mum and think, oh, look at her, like she looks this and that. But sometimes I look in the mirror, admittedly, and say, oh gosh, come on, like you need to do this and that. And I only see really the good in people. I would never think of looking at another mum and being like, oh God, like she's let herself go. I just don't feel like we think that. When I look at other mums, I feel more about the positives. I'll look at her hair and how well she's done it, or that's just me. I don't tend to look at the negatives as much. And I think when we look at ourselves sometimes, we focus on the bits we're not keen on and think that that's what everybody sees. And I don't think it is. I think we're all guilty of doing that sometimes. And I think it's important to look in the mirror and rephrase it and think about what's great about you and what you love about yourself, and give yourself that confidence boost that you've birthed a baby. And that you should be celebrating your body. This body has kept you going, kept the baby going, and given you your baby. So be positive to yourself like you would to another mum. You know, you're always gonna, I don't know, talk positively towards your friends, aren't you? And tell them how good they are. And it's important to do that for yourself as well. And finally, it's to zoom out. So this phase is not your final form if you don't want it to be. Your body isn't done, it's in transition, and you're not stuck here, you're in it. This is a season of your life. It's like matrescence. It's that season of your life where your body has gone through something huge and it's recouping now. If you're in those early days, self-image and how you look should be the last thing on your mind. It should be how you feel, you know, getting back to your strength, making sure that you're healing properly, making sure that you're resting. You should not be looking at people and how they're bouncing back, and you do not compare anyone. All you need to be focusing on how you feel and how your baby's doing. And naturally, as time progresses, your body will start to get back to where it was. You know, for me, I'm 10 months in now and I am feeling better. Yes, I need to move a bit more, but I do feel like I'm getting myself back, and that's great. But that is not something I've rushed. That is not something I've panicked about. I think it's just kind of come about because I do move around. I do focus on, that was another one I wanted to say, is eating good food. That's really important. And my sugar intake isn't brilliant at the moment, but I do try and make sure we have veg and greens and eating well and drinking a lot of water. Very important. But it's just kind of the basics. And I just wanted to remind you that rather than focusing on all these people we see online that, I mean, some of these influencers, they look like they haven't even birthed the baby, to be honest. Some of them are straight back into bikinis within like weeks. And I think great for them if that's what they want to do. And don't get me wrong, they look great. But it's very challenging to see that if that isn't your current situation. And it's just kind of reminding yourself of that, not to be triggered by any of that, and focus on you and your health and how you feel rather than on how you look right now, if that isn't making you feel good. And just reminding yourself that of what you've done. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps a little bit. And if you've got any tips for kind of helping with maternal self-image, giving yourself a break, but also some tips that make you feel good on your day, please send them in and I will share them on next week's episode. Next tonight is an email I received from a lovely listener called Lucy. And it says, my mother-in-law keeps posting my baby and I hate it. Hi, Charlotte. I've been meaning to write in for a while, but this has really tipped me over the edge this week. My mother-in-law is obsessed with our baby, which I know is a good problem to have, but she keeps posting photos of her on Facebook without asking me first. At the beginning, I tried to brush it off, all because I didn't want to seem ungrateful or difficult. She's so proud and keeps saying things like, I just want to show her off, and all my friends are so desperate to see her. But the truth is, I feel really uncomfortable with it. I'm quite a private person, and I've made a conscious decision not to share much of my baby online. It just doesn't sit right with me. I don't love the idea of her whole life being documented before she's even old enough to consent. The issue is I haven't properly said anything. I've hinted a couple of times like, oh, I'm trying to keep her off social media a bit, but she either laughs it off or says, oh, it's only my friends, and then carries on. And now it's got to the point where I feel this horrible knot in my stomach every time she tries to take a photo. I don't want to fall out with her, especially because she helps us a lot, and I know she means well. But I also feel like this is my baby and I should be able to decide. I think what I'm struggling with most is how to say something without it becoming a big thing. I don't want to upset her, but I'm starting to feel resentful. Have you or any other mums dealt with this? Thank you for everything you do. Your podcast has honestly been such a comfort on some long nights. Oh, thank you. That's really great to hear. And I am sorry to hear of this predicament because it is a tough one. And I wanted to read this because I think so many mums out there will feel this as well. First of all, I can feel the tension and I can imagine the tension you feel, like that sort of knot in your stomach feeling when something just doesn't sit right, but you also don't want to rock the boat. It's really tough. And I just want to say as well straight away, you are not being unreasonable at all. It's not about being ungrateful. It's not about being difficult. It's about boundaries. And you are the parent. So you set the boundaries. Digital boundaries for your child are really important nowadays. And I know we all have different ones. And it's a challenge that we really, I think, are the first generation to really feel. It's a big dilemma because our parents' generation didn't have to think about this at all. They didn't have things like Facebook when we were kids, where a photo can be shared instantly, widely, and let's not forget, permanently. So when she says things like, oh, it's only my friends, in her mind, it probably does feel like that. It probably feels harmless because Facebook is kind of, they're not native to it, are they? It's come along later in their lives and they probably think, oh, it's just a few friends. I just share my pictures and that's that. But for you and for our generation, it feels big because you're thinking about privacy and consent and your baby's digital footprint. And both of these perspectives can exist at the same time. So this is the most important bit, is that you are the parent, which means you get to decide. And I think where this has become difficult for you is that you've tried to soften it and hint to keep the peace. So maybe she thinks you're kind of okay with it, but whatever. And it's hard because it kind of creates a grey area. And it sounds like she doesn't fully understand the boundary and she's kind of being ignorant to it a bit, like ignorance is bliss. Like, oh, she's made the odd comment, but I'm sure she's fine about it. That's probably where she is in her mind. So they're stepping over it and not necessarily out of disrespect, but because it hasn't been clearly drawn. And that's where your resentment will start to build. So I think the kindest thing for both of you is clarity. No harshness, no confrontation, just clarity. And something really simple like, I know you're so proud of her and I love that, but I'm actually not comfortable with photos of her being shared online. It's something that's very important to me. So I'd really appreciate it if we could keep photos off social media. That's it. I don't think you need a big explanation. I don't think you need to justify it endlessly. It's a parenting decision. And I think sometimes we forget that boundaries can feel uncomfortable, especially if you're someone who's used to keeping the peace. I'm exactly like that. I hate confrontation. I hate making people feel awkward. But when it comes to my kids, I, I lose that. And I'm kind of like, no. I remember when my first was born and Jason and I decided we weren't going to put them on social media. I think we've shared maybe one image of each of them. But we were very we were on the same page about it. And we passed that message on to our families and they were fine. They were like, yep. And I think because we were really clear about that from the offset, we weren't like, oh, you can share them on your private Facebook, but not on your public Instagram. And we were just like, no pictures. And it makes it a level playing field for everybody then. So it's that making that shift from being accommodating to being clear. And it can take people a minute. I mean, I think she may feel a bit put out at first, but that doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It just means that it's an adjustment and it protects your relationship in the long run, because I think unspoken resentment is far more damaging than a slightly awkward conversation. And I just think it's your instinct as well. It's that feeling of this doesn't sit right with me, and that's your mum gut, and that's always worth listening to every time. And I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that can relate to this. So if you've had this happen to you, and you've navigated it, or you're navigating it, please email me thenightforyouPodcast@gmail.com and I will share it next week. Next night is what's trending. I keep seeing this phrase come up more and more on TikTok, and that is postpartum rage. It seems to be being spoken about a lot more. And I think it's because people are finally putting words to something that's been quietly happening for a long time to mums. So you'll see mums doing these simple videos like, no one warned me about feeling this angry, or I love my baby more than anything, but I feel like I'm constantly on the edge. And it's not anger in the way we usually think about it. And it's not about being a bad mom. It's that kind of low level simmer. Like the snapping over something small and the feeling of being completely overstimulated and touched out and needed all the time. And then maybe your partner asks where something is and it just flips you over the edge and you see red. And then a few minutes later, you're like, Jesus wept, what just happened to me? And I think what's interesting about all these videos on postpartum rage is the comments. So many mums being like, oh my God, I thought it was just me. I've been so scared to say this out loud. I feel like this all the time. And I think that's why it's gaining so much traction, because it's not about rage necessarily. It's about overwhelm and being in survival mode, and being so much in survival mode that something so small that usually would never bother you can flip you over the edge. And it's a very human response to being completely and utterly touched out and overstimulated. So if you felt that, and if you've had moments like that where you don't recognise yourself, it doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you. It might just mean you're carrying a lot. And in those moments when you can feel it building, it doesn't have to be anything big or perfect. You know, it can be something small, like putting the baby down somewhere safe for a minute and just stepping into another room, or taking a slow breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, even just once, or loosening your shoulders, unclenching your jaw, noticing how tense your body's got, or even just saying to yourself, this is a moment, not the whole day. And I saw another post, I think I talked about this a few weeks ago, where she's like, just say to yourself, this is not an emergency. This is not an emergency. This is not an emergency. And I actually said it the other day when we were trying to get out of the house, and I can't remember what happened. One of the girls was just not putting her shoes on, not cooperating. And we were going to be late. It wasn't, I can't remember what it was for now. And I started to get a bit angry. And then I was like, it's not an emergency. It's not an emergency. We're gonna turn up a few minutes late to, that was it, a play place we were going to. It's not an emergency. And I kept saying it to myself, it's not an emergency. And it really calmed me down. And it really grounded me in the moment. Because I hate flipping, and I hate the anger. And I think when you are a mum and you're juggling so many things at once, especially when you're trying to get 3, 5 and under out the door, it can be a bit tough when you're in a rush to get somewhere. So I'm like, it's not an emergency, it's not an emergency. And it really, really worked. So if you can remember in the moment when you're feeling that panic and that rage come on, take yourself away and tell yourself it's not an emergency. Even if your partner says something that just completely tips you over the edge, that wouldn't usually, take yourself away. Tell yourself it's not an emergency. And if you really need to laugh, there's a video circulating at the moment, which is like this mum where she's like, I've read somewhere that if you tap the middle of your forehead over and over, it calms you down, stops the rage, it kind of grounds you. And then it's like me at 7 p.m. and it's this Barbie doll's head just pressed in. Made me laugh. But there's all kinds of coping mechanisms. But it's just to remind you that if you are feeling that anger, it's a hormonal imbalance, and it is a completely normal thing that mums feel postpartum. It's just how you manage it and how you take yourself off and breathe and just have a minute to let it simmer away. Next tonight is my self-care suggestion, and it's my permission to you to do nothing. The doing nothing permission, which I think is a really big one. And it's just normalising rest and rejecting this pressure to always be productive. Because I think when you get a minute as a mum, I've talked about this before, I get this overwhelming sense of, what do I do? And actually, what you need to do is nothing. My mum and dad had the girls at the weekend for the night, which meant we just had the baby, which to us is like, put your feet up, get a takeaway. Once the baby's asleep, it's all chill, it's all calm. Looking after one instead of looking after 3 is a break for us now. And on the Sunday, the baby was napping on Jason. And I was like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do with this time? The girls are with my mum and dad, the baby's on Jason, potentially down for more than an hour here. What do I do? And I was like, do I paint my nails? Do I clean? I've got to do the bathrooms. I've got to hoover. Oh my God. And really, in those moments, what's wrong with lying there and just lying there and not going on the phone and not reading a book? And it's really overwhelming, that feeling, isn't it? And this is just my permission to you that when you do get those times, normalise doing nothing. Not feeling like if you've got a contact napping baby that you have to go on your phone, do your grocery shop and do you this and do you that and constantly be stimulated. I did that yesterday where I spent half an hour on ASOS scrolling, putting things in my basket, didn't even buy them. And I'm like, I've just wasted half an hour there where I could have just sat and done nothing. And it just annoys me sometimes that we live in this generation of digital stimulation everywhere, that we can't just be anymore and just sit, just be calm and have a minute. So there's my permission to you to do nothing. Thanks for listening tonight, as always. Thanks for your emails. I've had some really lovely ones coming in at the moment, so please keep them coming in, the nightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. If I don't read them out, I'll always have a conversation with you as well. I've been loving chatting to you, mums from all over, like Scotland, Australia, the US. I love hearing from you all. And that's the baby waking, and that's my cue to go and get him. So thanks for listening. I wish you all a restful, peaceful night ahead. Good night.